3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Police Accountability Board Regular Meeting. It is Wednesday, September 27th, 2023. Public notice: the PAB has resumed in-person meetings and encourages community members to attend in person. Community members attending in person should observe the health and safety protocols for in-person meetings of Berkeley boards and commissions as outlined by the City of Berkeley. The PAB acknowledges that physical attendance may not be feasible for all community members. To this end, the Office of the Director of Public Police Accountability has been exploring the option of allowing for remote participation at PAB meetings. Please note that the OPPA and the PAB are in the early stages of implementing this hybrid meeting format, so there is a possibility for technical glitches and errors. Your patience and understanding are greatly appreciated. To access this meeting remotely, join from a PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or Android device using this URL listed below. If you do not wish for your name to appear on the screen, use the drop-down menu and click on Rename to rename yourself to be anonymous. To request to speak, use the raise hand icon on the screen. Join by phone, dial 1-669-900-6833 and enter leading ID 826-5339-6072. If you wish to comment during the public comment portion of the agenda, press *9 and wait to be recognized. At this time, we'd like to recognize that we are fully in support of the land acknowledgement that the City of Berkeley has brought on every commission. And at that, we're going to agenda item number 1, which is call to order, roll call. Director.
Thank you. We have Chair Moore,
Here.
Vice Chair Harris,
Here.
Board Member Kitty Calarita has an excuse absent. Board Member Lefley,
Here.
Board Member Wilson has an excuse absent, and Board Member Brent Blackerby.
Here.
From the staff, it's currently me and our investigator will be joining remotely. Our policy analyst is not going to be able to attend today. From the city attorney's office, we have Deputy City Attorney James Chang. And from the city manager's office, we have a new staff member will be presented shortly.
Thank you, Director. That brings us to agenda item number 2, which is the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions, submissions, subtractions, anything that any board member would like to change, or Director, if there's anything we'd like to change, now is our time.
Just wanted to publicly follow up on the request that we received from the policy complainant for policy complaint, I believe it was number 5. They're not going to be available to attend today, so they requested that it be pushed to the next meeting. And it's our recommendation that we push that item to the next meeting. They're also presented another policy complaint as well, so they'll be able to present on both.
Can I do a motion for the Director's recommendation to move?
I'll second that.
And there we go. Not seeing or hearing any extensions, I'm going to go ahead and say that is passed, and we'll move that off the agenda. Is there any other changes, additions, things we need to move around real quick? Not seeing or hearing any others. That takes us to agenda item number 3, which is public comment. Director?
Would you like to do the public comment online or in person?
Let's go in person first.
Okay. So any members of the public that wish to address the board, Mr. Chair, would you like me to acknowledge them, or do you want to?
If it's easier for you, let me go ahead and we can go ahead and direct this. So why don't we start, we'll go left to right, if that's okay with everybody? If you can just stand and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Sure, thank you very much. Board members, I really appreciate your service. I really appreciate you being here and, keeping up alive. I'm here because, Sergeant Marble, is being sued, for his racist activities in Antioch. We also know that he's a racist here in Berkeley. And I don't know, do you guys, is there anything that keeps active violent racists off the police? Is there anything, shall we look at policies? Shall we look at, what are we gonna look at? Or are we just gonna set this up? Because the fair and impartial policing, the fair and impartial subcommittee is a freaking joke. If you let Marvel run around and he can be punching people and threatening them with guns, then if that's okay, then save yourself some time, get rid of the fair and impartial, because it's not, there's no point. I also wanna say this, that the tragedy that happened last week, where the Berkeley Police Department was involved in a shooting, and tragically enough, the person they shot had just shot the mother of his child, as far as I can believe the papers. But nonetheless, I think it's still your responsibility to investigate that and tell us what really happened. Because I'm not gonna trust the Berkeley scam. So we need some accountability, we need some process. These are the time, no matter what the incident is, it has to be investigated. That's the key to critical. We don't judge it first and then decide, we investigate it. My hope is that you'll take that on. And my hope also is that I have to go, I have another meeting at 7. But I do want to implore you to, I know that there's a policy complaint coming up around the investigation of the text case. What we call the text case, which is the fact that, again, the racism within the Berkeley Police Department, where they're passing, Joe texts, et cetera, amongst themselves, targeting unhoused people. Ilana later is gonna show you the data. We have the anecdotes, we have the data, we have what we need to know that something was terribly wrong with the bike force. We have other incidents more recently where bike force officers violently dump a guy on the ground. We can get the footage to you, but the question is, are we going to compel the city to produce documents? I have a Public Records Act request out trying to get the text. I've been trying for almost a year now, for as soon as, they said, oh, we were investigating. Well, the investigation is done. So all of that information should be subject to public disclosure. All of that information, and they're not providing it. They are, what can I say? They're bullshitting their way through it. They're giving me all kinds of little, documents from their city council meetings, and saying, we'll give you more, we'll give you more. There's violations of the Public Records Act, even their disclosure. So whoever's here from the city attorney's office, we need some independent counsel. You need an independent, because the other thing that's gonna happen is that the citizens are talking about just suing the city of Berkeley for failure to implement the Police Accountability Board in its, as it was voted on by the public. So these issues are on the minds of some of the people that I'm talking to. And I know that you guys are, I'm also quite upset that the city council has not seen fit to enact the will of the people and to actually appoint a full complement of commissioners to help you do the ton of work that I know is coming your way. So I appreciate your service and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Russell Bates, I lived in this community for over half a century now, moved here in 1973. I don't want to hear a lot of cop crap tonight. There's a tendency, I think, in this city to disregard what people say to the city council and to the commissions here. I think it's a very easy thing to say, well, let me lay a little foundation for this. The seniors are trying to do, I'm a senior, so I can do this. I'm one of the 20% of Berkeley that doesn't have a college education. I don't have a degree. So that means my comments are often unfiltered. And I say what I mean, I don't try to put it in kind words or white words or anything like that. And I've been asked not to say, like, fuck the police tonight. And I've asked, why can't I say fuck the police? And they say, well, it's rude, it's offensive, pisses off the cops, and they don't like it. I said, you make that sound like a bad thing. But, so I'm not gonna say that. You won't hear me say fuck the police tonight at all. I'm an old guy, I'm 76 years old, served in the military for 4 years, that's where I got my education. Joined the Vietnam Veterans Against the War when I got out, moved to Berkeley 3 years later. I was young and pissed off, and now I'm old and pissed off. Still the same old shit. You know, the racism, the sexism, the ageism, the misogyny, the transphobia now, homophobia. I mean, nothing has changed, and if anything, it's gotten worse, it's gotten very divisive. You know, and it makes me sad, it makes me angry, it makes me sanguine about the whole thing. It should be happening. And I think you need to really listen to people and listen to the diversity of opinions from a diversity of people in this city. You know, it seems to be it's going to be poor. There seems to be an upper class now and poor and working class people. And there's not much of a middle class. And that's going to be leading to problems later on. And the cops are making 10 times more than, you know, I get vendors assistance and CalFresh and SSDI. You know, I mean, they make more in a year than I made the last 10 years that I worked for a living. You need to listen to people. You need to listen to people like Andrea and Alana when she presents her story tonight. It needs to be done. We need to keep everybody as honest as they can be. The police are not known for their honesty anywhere. They weren't in Chicago where I left there. Well, I'll leave it at this. My first run-in with the Berkeley Police in 1974, I was arrested for assaulting a police officer, resisted arrest, disobeying a traffic officer, blocking the thoroughfare. The public defender said, well, you plead guilty, but you got for only 3 years. Well, I got the ACLU involved, wound up paying a $25 vehicle full fine. Sued the Berkeley Police for violating my constitutional rights by using excessive force in my arrest if I get shoved into the ground. So I'm not talking from theory. I'm talking from reality and what I've seen and what people I know have seen and experienced. So please, just do what you're supposed to do. That's all I mean now. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Avery Arba. I'm the president of the Cal Berkeley Democrats, and I'm a student at UC Berkeley. Today, you guys are all going to be hearing about and considering a policy complaint addressing racist, anti-homeless texts that revealed a illegal quota system within the Berkeley Police Department. Texts that were only revealed after one of the participants was reprimanded for unrelated policy violations. Our student community at UC Berkeley and the community at large does not trust and knows that this is not an isolated incident. There is rampant non-enforcement of internal policy within the Berkeley Police Department. One example, really pertinent right now, is Sergeant Marble. Sergeant Marble is still on the force after he was caught on film explicitly racially profiling. He is still on the force after attacking a black man while off duty, calling him slurs, and threatening him with a gun for several minutes until his friend successfully got Sergeant Marble not to shoot him. And this is why Berkeley students recently drafted a complaint pertaining to Officer Marble in particular, but non-enforcement, rampant non-enforcement within the Berkeley Police Department in general of internal policies. We need to know why illegal, informal racist practices went unreported for years. We need to know what happens to police officers when they violate consistently internal department policies. And we need to know that you guys are on our side and there is going to be actual enforcement of policy violations, standards and practices for internal policy to prevent the lack of trust that our community currently has with our police system from continuing. So yeah.
Thank you. It's.
Thank you, Chip. My name is Nikki Mosai, and I've been living in this community for over 15 years. I own Berkeley Community Physical Therapy. And that is a clinic that we're serving Medi-Cal patients and all kinds of patients with all forms of insurances, and we're the only one in the area. So I'm here to do the people's work, and I'm looking at all these guys, and of course, they're gonna be asked to investigate racist policing in this city. And I just wanna bring an anecdote. On Saturday, I went to a memorial for Gus Newport. This was the mayor of Berkeley in the 70s who radically changed the police department during the time that he was there, making it like necessary to have a bachelor's degree to serve in this force, to be educated in a lot of things. And he even brought Black Panther Party members to be assisting and be in a place of basically looking over what the police was doing in that day. We've come a long way from that day. And I think this city, instead of being the haven for civil rights or progressivism, has gone down. And a lot of things here are controlled by money, wealth, and things are shut down. We go all the time to the city council to discuss with our elected leaders what's going on here. And they do their investigations by the city manager, and things are not discussed with the people, and things are passed along, and people are given higher authority, and such as Jen Lewis being appointed, and we don't hear about what happened in these investigations. And I'm just looking at all you guys and just praying for all the power and giving you all the strength to go forth in the spirit of Gus Newport, who really upheld the principles that Berkeley is known all around the world for. So don't take it lightly, and may the fourth be with you.
Thank you. Please.
I've lived in Berkeley for the last 40 years. My father was born here, my grandparents lived here. Both my parents and grandparents went to the UC Berkeley here. I feel like this is as close to home as I could possibly get. And I was so happy to move here when I did, because it was Berkeley and I knew the spirit of it. But I've been disappointed in seeing how the police react to difficult situations. There used to be, when I had a schizophrenic daughter who was often 5150, then we call the police. So, I've had some experience with dealing with the system. The thing is that today, it seems like, what happened to crisis intervention training? There was one guy here 10, 15 years ago. He came and he de-escalated the situation, which was frightening for me because my daughter had a weapon. But they had training, and apparently this guy had excellent training for about 15 years. People would come to a situation and they knew how to escalate it. When I saw the behind the mask film of the police that shot the guy in the jaw, the de-escalation that they tried to do was somebody, standing back, not offering food or drink to him, not saying hello, my name is, nothing like that. It was like, obviously they had no training. And, I think the murders that we've seen too this week, is it? The man that shot the mother of his child, who was then shot, he could have been somehow dealt with. However, maybe this is something that had been brewing for a long time. That had been brought to the attention of people that they could have gotten help. Maybe that could have helped. A son stabbed his mother and she died. What was this son? Was he normal? No, he was probably schizophrenic, like my daughter was. And I know families with schizophrenic children, they can be dangerous. On the other hand, they can also be brought down, and if you talk to someone and have rapport with it, you can de-escalate. So that's one thing I'm seeing is totally missing. The other point I wanted to bring up was that one of the houseless people I knew ended up arrested because she didn't leave her dwelling fast enough. She stayed in the jail for a day. She was totally traumatized. She'd never been in jail. Apparently there was no water in the drinking fountain. It just dribbled out. And the conditions in there sounded pretty appalling. And that was just for one person, one day. So I'm wondering, who is looking at the jails? What conditions do we have there? What training does the police have? I'm hugely disappointed. And I'm involved with the Berkeley Mental Health Commission. And this is a problem I would love to see addressed. You know, our commission, talking to police accountability, to make a system that really works. And I want to appreciate you guys. I know you're down to bare bones membership, just like the Mental Health Commission is. But we can do it. We just need to reach out and get people aware that this is a place, the commission, the advisory board, are places people can speak out and maybe make a difference. But we need to make it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in the public that would like to speak? Thank you. If you like to go online, see if we can.
If we have any members from the public that would like to, excuse me, that are virtually attending and would like to address the board, please raise your hand icon so we could give you permission to speak. And our investigator is online, Mr. Chair. Okay, I see Kit Saginaw. I'm going to permit for you to speak. Are you on with the board? Please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much for taking my remarks. This is Kit Saginaw. Like others that have spoken to you this evening, I'm, just appalled at the incident with Sergeant Marble, the incidents, plural, with Sergeant Marble. I've read things like this in the newspaper of a employee somewhere who behaved inappropriately, who behaved racistly, who threatened people. And in most of those cases, that person lost their job really quickly. Now, and it didn't require, someone being brought to court. They were just fired. Now, I'm happy that our police officers are unionized and have protections from, they're not employed at will, but I don't think anything will happen with Sergeant Marble. I think there will be some pro forma investigation and they'll decide that, well, it didn't matter, or maybe it was because he was off duty. It clearly affects everything, the racism within the police department and the condoning, the allowing, the making excuses for racism, the kinds of remarks that the city manager's office made about the bike patrol, saying there's no racism in the police department. It's like, no, nobody's going to believe that. It's just not true. It's not credible. And this is another example of that. I've certainly heard the mayor and city council members talk about this is what a real problem this is, and that it's not acceptable. In fact, I'm sure that the policies say that racism is not acceptable in police officers. But the mayor and the city council members, and perhaps you all, don't seem to be able to actually do anything about it. And the people who could do something about it, the police leadership, the chief of police, the city manager, they don't care. They clearly don't care. It doesn't bother them that there's racism in the department. And that's really, really discouraging. Thank you for taking my call. Thank you very much for doing the work that you do. It is really appreciated. I hope you don't get discouraged and that you push and keep pushing and keep pushing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public that are joining us remotely? Please raise your hand icon if you'd like to be given an opportunity to address the board. Not seeing any additional hand raises, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. I want to thank everyone for the public comment, and that brings us to agenda item number 4, which is the approval of the minutes. The minutes for the regular meeting of July 12th, 2023, which was first. Is there any changes, additions, subtractions, clarifications that need to be made? If not, can I get a motion?
I move that the minutes be approved. Second.
Any objections, not seeing or hearing any, we can go ahead and say those are approved. And that brings us to the special, meetings of the special meeting from July 24th. Again, any additions, subtractions, changes? If not, may I have a motion, please?
I move that those minutes be approved. Second.
Excellent. Saying,
Okay, approved by consent.
approved by consent. Which brings us to agenda item number 5, that would be a staff report. Director,
Thank you.
yours, yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the public, being here and board members. I do also want to acknowledge, both, Captain Durbin and, Lieutenant Reese are here from the department. I don't believe I acknowledged the, staff members from the BPD. A few updates, one of the updates that I provide to the board and the, community, we're gonna do some, reassignment, internally with our office. As you know, Mr. Murillo has been serving us very well in his policy analyst role. Because he's currently there's more flexibility in his ability to move him around. So I'm going to be reassigning him for other general duties within the office as we restabilize and still don't have our administrative admin. We're still waiting on our data analysts and our investigators. So he's a little bit more flexible, but we also cleared our the background for our next associate management analyst, which we're gonna be bringing her in as the policy analyst. And she'll be starting starting Monday, so you get to meet her. I'm very excited about her. She has a very impressive background. And she's also done some work with BPD as an intern while she was finishing her master's in public policy. So she's gonna be able to hit the ground running. So we're excited about that. Again, she'll be presented formally at the next board meeting. And Mr. Murillo, he'll be stepping in and assisting in other roles as I assign him. He's also going to be helping in the transition for a new policy analyst as well. So we're not necessarily just gonna leave her to figure things out. We also have our investigator, we're intended to have him finish his background process, so we should hopefully have him in office within the next month. We've seen an uptick in complaints in the last few weeks, so this is a really good time to come to the office. So we're excited about that, and we'll formally present him once he has the final offer. We have during the summer, during the break, we did submit the annual report, which was delayed for different reasons. But it has been reviewed legally by the city attorney's office. So now it can be presented to the board before it goes to council. And just as a reminder, there is a requirement under the charter that any public report be reviewed by the city attorney's office first. So that was part of the reason it's not making its way through the board. I am in the process of procuring a complaints software, which will also have a portal. So members of the community will be able to see in real time the complaints that our office is receiving. Just giving you updates once a year is not the best format to do that. Because this is a relatively small jurisdiction, we still have to be mindful of confidentiality. So the data portal will only show you whether a complaint was received, and members of the community can track that across time. We are in the process with the budget team and other stakeholders within the city structure of presenting to city council the lease contract that we have been trying to negotiate for a new office location. We have our new staff members coming in, and we also wanted to get a space that we could have our board meetings. So we will hopefully be able to present that to council within the next month or so and go through that process. If all goes smooth, we should be in the new space before the year closes, and I'm excited about the possibilities of that space. A reminder, the NACO webinars are good training sources. There is one tomorrow. Feel free to attend. If you do purchase it yourself, just let me know. We'll get you the reimbursement if you're a board member, but certainly members of the community are also encouraged to attend any NACO training webinars that are available. And lastly, but most importantly, I have a new staff member to present. We have, not from our office, but we'll be working closely with her. Dr. Cariana Arredondo is the assistant to the city manager for reimagining public safety. She's been here about a month. And
A little over 30 days, yeah.
yeah, and one of the first contacts she made, which I was excited about, was to our office, and she wanted to make sure she was here to present herself to you. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Very excited to be here. I am a little over 30 days in, and I'm going to go ahead and stand up so I can see all of you. My name is Cariana Arredondo. You can also call me Carrie, and I'm primarily going to be serving as the Reimagining Public Safety Project Coordinator. A little bit about myself. I moved to Berkeley about 3 years ago, and prior to joining the city, I was working as an assistant dean of special projects for Mills College at Northeastern within their School of Education. So I come from a background in education. One of the reasons why I was at the School of Education was because of their alignment on anti-racism, social justice, equity, and wellness. And I do feel like there's a value alignment there. And with my skill sets in project management, I'm looking forward to moving along the work that's been happening with Reimagining Public Safety. And as a quick announcement, to please mark your calendars for December 5th for a city council update that we're going to be providing then. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that's all the announcements out of our staff. I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Excellent. I'm gonna open it up for questions from the board real quick.
Director, I'm sorry. Do you have a timeline on the software? I was just curious on the online complaint.
Yes, so that the procurement process is very lengthy, so we had to go through IT review, budget, making sure we had enough money there, and legal review, timeline. Certainly before the year closes. I would hope within the next 2 months. And I am familiar with the software. One of the things that really attracted me to it, and I've looked at other software as well and utilize other. IA Pro is probably a name that people may recognize, and it's usually used by the police departments for internal affairs. What I like about this software is civil, and we can do a demo in one of the meetings, but the founder intended it for a very niche field of civilian oversight. So, and he's very flexible. He's been working with other civilian oversight agencies across the country to really tailor it for the work that we do. IA Pro, I think, is a great software, and there's others out there, but they're not speaking to our specific needs of civilian oversight. So that's what really attracted me to this. Thank you.
Vice Chair.
I was just gonna ask, Ms. Arredondo, you said December 15th?
5th.
On the 5th. And then what was that supposed to be?
There's going to be a city council meeting where we're going to be providing a status update on reimagining public safety in terms of our progress that we've made and next steps.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Actually, that brings me to one, I'm curious, when you say we, is that just the city manager's office? Are you bringing in other stakeholders? What is this December presentation gonna look like?
That is still something that's in the works. As I mentioned, I'm a little over 30 days in, and it's been a priority of mine to just learn as much as possible, listen as much as possible, and really bring forward, in terms of my priorities, a sense of due diligence, optimization, collaboration, and transparency. So as someone coming into this position, I want to make sure that we're in a good place. So something that is in the very preliminary planning stages is prior to the December 5th meeting, my goal is to have community outreach, something like a town hall. And my anticipation is, as I continue to attend these meetings, to update the community on those next steps and dates as well.
Thanks.
I hope that answers your question.
No, that's right.
Thank you.
Not seeing any more questions from our group. And Director, do you have anything else to add?
No,
All right, so that brings us to agenda item number 6, which will be the chair and board member report. My report will be very short. I'm going to now again formally request that we write a letter to council to ask for more board members. And I think we're probably on our 4th letter, but I want to keep them going. There's 2 things. I have been at this job now for about 14 months, and I look forward to handing the gavel over. And when I do, there's 2 things that I need to be done. One is our regulations, and I'd like to see every chair of this table filled and our board actually optimized and working towards the goals that we have set in the community as well. So that being said, I want to make sure that everybody knows as I'm, preparing this time table. Those are the goals that I would like to leave this chair with. And that is all that I have. Is there any other things that the board would like to share at this time? Please, Board Member Lovich.
Yeah, I wanted to propose an agenda item for next month's meeting. And that is to discuss the formation of a subcommittee to explore policies related to the consequences of officer off-duty misconduct.
noted.
Thank you. So if there's no other board members that need to say, that brings us to agenda item number 7. And I will bring it to you, Captain Berman.
Good evening and good to see all of you again, and welcome the new faces in the room, Ms. Arredondo and Board Member Blackaby. I'll go through the report on behalf of the Chief of Police. So to begin with staffing, the recruitment and retention incentive program is up and running, and I'm picking up, it's been a couple months, but these are the picking up from where we last left off. We have several employee referrals in the queue already. One was from, actually, I think we have more than one now from outside the police department, but it's yet to be seen how many of those referrals will actually follow through with the application process. But from our last meeting in July, we had cards made that we had discussed at the July meeting that all employees, I'm holding one up here, all city employees now have access to, so they can hand these cards out if they come across somebody that they think would make a good police officer or a good dispatcher, and they will have a QR code, a link here straight to our recruitment team. So we're optimistic that we'll see some positive results from that work. And so I just wanted to follow through with the board and let you know that we are at this step in that process. And we are still seeing some early success with hiring dispatchers, more so than we are with police officers. We have 3 dispatchers in training and 4 more expected to start in the fall. The kind of unique challenge we have now that we didn't anticipate, though, is that when you run your numbers down so low, the situation we're in, we're finding it hard to have trainers. So we don't want to stall or slow down our hiring process because we're finding good people, but at the same time, we can only expect so much from staff that's already kind of overworked, or has been for quite some time. Cases of interest and crime trends. Car thefts and carjackings continue to rise. Carjackings are on pace to double this year compared to the 5-year average, but they are still a relatively small number of overall percentage of robberies. But unfortunately, robberies are also up considerably from year to year, as we're on pace to have around 350 robberies this year. We're also experiencing more failures to yield, so cars that don't stop for our officers when they're activating their lights and sirens. Many times those involve high-end cars without license plates or plates that come back to other vehicles. Those kind of indicators support that the cars are being stolen to commit other crimes, which we've talked about in the past. It was already talked about, but on Thursday, September 21st, 2023, last week, in the late morning hours, we responded to 911 calls from citizens reporting a shooting at Albany Toyota that had just occurred with the suspect still inside the business. Berkeley police officers, Albany police officers, and Berkeley Fire Department entered to protect life, and there was an officer-involved shooting. The investigations are underway now, with Albany PD investigating the initial crime, the Alameda County Sheriff's Office investigating the officer-involved shooting, and our own internal affairs, as well as the District Attorney's Office, doing parallel investigations of the shooting. The relevant policies for the board that we were following the day of, or 1015, is our officer-involved shooting policy. And we're also paying close attention to policy 1032. That's our critical incident stress management and peer support policy. As you can imagine, an officer-involved shooting is a traumatic critical incident, and we need to make sure that all involved are well and supported, and that a full review of the incident occurs. On Saturday, also already talked about, there was a murder. We responded, ultimately located and arrested a suspect who was attempting to flee in a vehicle. That was really fantastic police work by the beat officer, who knew the individuals on his beat and was able to locate that suspect very, very quickly. And then last night, we responded to 4 robberies in the South Campus area that all took place between after 11 p.m. and a little after midnight. And the robberies all occurred in relatively the same area. Officers spotted the suspect vehicle and initiated a pursuit that ultimately led into Oakland. All 4 suspects were ultimately taken into custody after a block search of the area, and we recovered evidence and firearms. So generally, it's been a very, very busy week, and we were short-staffed pretty much through the entire weekend, and that required us to actually have officers from every division support patrol over the weekend. In regards to policies or any other updates, I'm following up on trying to go back, but also just over this last week. Last week, we shared with the ODPA our quarterly update on the fair and impartial policing recommendations, and the 3 updates in that report are that $100,000 for consultant work on an early intervention and risk management system is there, that we need to start talking about either RFP process or looking for a consultant for that work. We did provide an update on the specialized care unit, and we finalized our contract with Citygate for the workload study since we last talked, and that's work has already started. And we're still working through the process to obtain automated license plate readers, LPRs, and a request for the funds is going to go before the full council at the October 10th meeting. Was there a question?
No, please continue.
And finally, last update is fixed cameras. We did add a fixed camera to 6th and University. So that would be in addition to the cameras in the city that are already at the transfer station, San Pablo Park, and the marina. We have not utilized that camera yet for any investigative purpose, but the request and tracking of that information ultimately will go through the investigation division's captain. And I believe that's all I have. I'm here for any questions.
Board, is there any questions regarding the board at this time? Board Member Leftwich.
Yes, I had a question about lexical policies.
Yes.
So I served on the PRC, and at that time, we had a lexical subcommittee that worked very closely with the department on the conversion of BPD policies to lexical policies. And we've been so sidetracked with working on our regulations, the PAB, that we have are way behind on lexical policies. And I'm wondering if you would be able to give us, not tonight, of course, but give us a list of all the policies that have been converted from the standard BBD policies to Lexipol since the inception of the PAB. Because I know we're gonna wanna go back and take a look at those since Lexipol policies tend to be much less progressive than Berkeley policies, and so it's important that they be closely examined during the conversion process.
Yeah, so if I heard you originally correctly, and I hope I did, is that you don't expect that right now. You want me to look into that and see if I can figure out which ones were converted since PAB. Yeah, I think I could probably figure that out just by date, right? Just okay, PAB formed on this date, and here's when policies were released. And yeah, let me look into that, and we can provide that to the ODPA.
That would be great. And then just to clarify, are those policies, whatever have been converted, are those now in effect as of the date that they were converted?
I'm not sure I understand the question. You talking about?
Well, as I said, in the past, we were very involved in the process of conversion, and we would reach an agreement with the department, and then the policies would go into effect. So we would be working with the department before the policies went into effect. And I guess since so much time has gone by, I'm assuming but don't know that any Lexipol policies that are any policies that were converted from Berkeley policies to Lexipol policies are in effect. But I just wanted confirmation about that, if I'm clear, if I'm being clear.
Yeah, so we are continuing to release policies and update policies. And so if you can see on the website, you'll see here's the list of policies that are still from our old general orders. And you'll also see all the Lexipol policies. So all the Lexipol policies are already converted, but we still have to convert some. No, we aren't pausing to go over these policies with the PAB. We're moving forward. We're trying to convert all of our policies. And so we still have some police regulations. We still have some training and information bulletins to look at, but no, we're trying to just continue to move through that work.
Okay, thank you.
Director.
Captain Durbin, could you just clarify what investigation the BPD will be doing in the Office of Involved Shooting? Is it purely administrative, or they? I know a lot of different departments are investigating this, but are you also doing a criminal review of the actions, or just administrative?
Just administrative, internal affairs.
Okay.
Well, I think that's all, Captain Durbin. We do appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course. It's good to see all of you again.
Take care.
Thank you.
It brings us to agenda item number 8, which is subcommittee reports. As the state of our subcommittees right now, we can fly past this. It's not something we need to spend a lot of time on. As there's only 4 of us now, 5 of us active. Our subcommittees have only been able to hold 2 of our board members at a time with no public participation. Now we have 5 members, correct? 6, which means we can go back to 3-person per subcommittee, and we can start to bring on public community members now again as well. So that being said, that is our first step back into our subcommittee work. I know that we have relisted and reorganized our subcommittees. At this time, I know you're new to the game. We got some places to stick in. I promise it's gonna hurt. At the same time, I want to make sure that we do get to allocate our new members to the subcommittees and what that's going to look like. Because of the absence of board member Wilson, no member Calvino at this time, however, I'm going to say, let's move this to our next meeting.
Chairman, and then my understanding is on the next council agenda, I think there is 1 more board member slated for Friday, so we may have 7 in the next couple of weeks, right?
Possibly.
I mean, depending all that stuff, but just in terms of planning and personnel for subcommittee.
Very excited, yeah.
So we have two of us to sort of throw the wolves. Okay, great. Yes, thank you.
We will not do much.
Okay. All right.
And we look forward to everyone's service, and that's community members like, now that we are back to having enough members, that we have subcommittees that have more than 2 members, we can also start bringing community members. That being said, let's make sure that we agendize that work for our next meeting. And we can get things started. Is there anybody else that would like to talk about subcommittees or have anything about subcommittees to share at this time? All right, that brings us to agenda item number 9, which is new business. Which brings us to agenda item A, presentation of new policy complaints. Policy complaint number 2023 PR 000.
Chair Moore.
Please.
Okay, so, for members of the public, we got the agenda package printed if you want to follow along, but, we're at page 21 of those page numbers. And we received this policy complaint number. We did invite the complainant to make a presentation. We provided a memo to the board just summarizing. And I would, if you allow me, like to refer to the complainant so they can express their, the reason for bringing this to the board.
All right. Can you all see me? Glenn, now would be the time to give those out. Thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Ilana Auerbach, and first and foremost, I really want a deep bow of gratitude to each of you. Welcome to the new member of the board, and thank you so much for your service, because I know this is a labor of love for each of you, and I know how much effort and energy and time we're putting into this. So thank you on behalf of everybody who voted for this. As you well know, in December 2022, the Berkeley City Council received disturbing screenshots from a Berkeley Police Department group chat. Snapshots of the conversation revealed a culture of racism, profound anti-homeless sentiment, systemic overtime abuse, and allude to a policy of arrest quotas, which are illegal in California. You now have a copy of all of the text messages in front of you. In the leaked messages, Sergeant Darren Kaslick, then president of the Berkeley Police Union, jokes about a new viral strain of COVID killing unhoused people, mocks people of color's use of the social welfare system, and encourages his subordinates to meet a 100 arrests a month quota, among other very offensive texts. You can read them yourselves. These texts are so shocking because Berkeley is a city that supposedly is implementing fair and impartial policing protocols, is reimagining public safety. Welcome to the city of Berkeley and to the city of Berkeley staff. We just hired an assistant to the city manager, and claims to have racial justice and equity as our values. This body, the Police Accountability Board, was created because more than 84% of Berkeley voters want police oversight. We want the next iteration, or like maybe a big leap from the PRC, the Police Review Commission. That was failing. So that's why this board came into being several years ago. That's why I filed this complaint, to ensure that a thorough and transparent investigation into these horrific texts is completed. You all know, and it was mentioned, the city manager's independent investigation concluded and found no misconduct by the Berkeley Police Department. No racism, no arrest quotas, no violations of state or constitutional law. This, even though all but one of those texts, which are in front of you, all but one of them have been forensically legitimized.
This investigation by law firm Swanson and McNamara was not only kept secret without disclosure of any methodology used or justification for arriving at their conclusions, it was also wholly inadequate. Swanson and McNamara analyzed arrest data by the BPD bike force between October 1st, 2019 through November 22nd, 2020, a little over a year. This is far too narrow a data set. In fact, when last November, when these texts came into the public arena, Berkeley Cop Watch started our own investigation. And we, in partnership with Human Rights Data Analysis Group, analyzed 5 years of arrest data from January 2018 through 2022. And you can see we have a graph right here. What we found, and you can see this, are major discrepancies between bike force arrests, which is the red line, and arrests of the rest of the department, which is the blue line. And what you can see is right here, this peak, right before the COVID lockdown, that is the very narrow window that the Swanson and McNamara investigation. So that's the data that they used to investigate. So they just investigated that peak. Anomalies only become apparent when compared to data before and after the anomaly. Through Public Records Act requests, Berkeley Cop Watch obtained arrest records from the BPD, along with records from the Alameda County District Attorney's Office during Nancy O'Malley's tenure as DA. Our analysis showed the number of arrests that the district attorney declined to prosecute for non-bike force officers ranged between 20 and 25%. So a non-bike force officer makes an arrest, and the district attorney, for a whole slew of reasons, chooses not to prosecute those arrests. Okay, that was about 20 to 25%. The bike force, on the other hand, during that same time period, it was about 35% of the arrests by the bike force. District Attorney O'Malley chose not to prosecute. That's a big discrepancy. That's what you see in these charts. Here's 2020. You see the red bar is the bike force arrests that were dropped due to various reasons, and the blue lines are the rest of the department. You see another spike again in 2022. After the summary report of the city manager's investigation came out, once again, we worked with Human Rights Data Analysis Group to analyze that same minimal data set, this data set right there, that the investigators did, and found that 44% of the people arrested by the bike force during those 13 months were Black. Well, y'all, look around this room, look around this city. You know that the city of Berkeley, unfortunately, our Black population is getting decimated, is declining dramatically since I've lived here for the past almost 20 years. 8%. That's what the census says, of residents of Berkeley are Black. This number demonstrates these striking racial disparities for which BPD has been criticized for years. It is blatantly untrue for the report to claim that there is no indication of racial bias. To better understand how different officers use their discretion, we look specifically at arrests that are coded as on view by officer. What this means is this indicates that the arrest was not initiated by a resident who called 911 and complained, or a court order, but by the arresting officer. Compared to the rest of the department, on-view arrests made by bike force officers were much more likely to be dropped by District Attorney O'Malley, meaning the person arrested was not prosecuted or convicted of anything. Officer Stern had 64% of his 61 arrests dropped. Officer Shikori, 51% of his 68 arrests dropped. Michael Chick had 49% of his 274 arrests dropped. Corey Shadowdy had 44% dropped in his 34 arrests. And I could go on. Collectively, The non-bike force members of the department had only 28% of their on-view arrests dropped in this same period. So I am just laying this all out for you because there are so many questions here, questions that have not been answered. And when we think of that Officer Michael Chick, 274 people that he arrested, almost half of them were dropped. Each one of these numbers, those are people who were likely traumatized, likely terrorized by being arrested, being detained, taken to jail, and then being let go. How much of the trauma and terror was unnecessary? Why did District Attorney O'Malley drop so many more bike force officers' arrests as compared with officers in other units? Were these arrests unnecessary? These are just some of the unanswered questions, because as Andrea Pritchett mentioned at the top of this meeting, we at Berkeley Cop Watch still have not gotten all of our Public Records Act requests completed. And we are waiting and waiting and waiting for data, as I know you all are too. So this is just some of the unanswered questions about this tech scandal and the resulting investigation. This has left many in our community feeling even less trust in the Berkeley Police Department. In addition, the latest scandal involving allegations against Sergeant Marble, someone who has been documented by Berkeley Cop Watch engaging in racist acts here in Berkeley. We have documentation, we have the video from 2017, points once again to a deep culture of racism within the department. Having you all complete a thorough and transparent investigation will follow the mandate that the vast majority of Berkeley voters empowered this board with. This is why you were created. It will also serve the Berkeley Police Department as a way, and I speak to you, officer, and I speak to Captain Durbin, oh, he's not there anymore. To begin, sir, to cultivate trust between your department and our community. And so it will not only serve the community, it will also serve the police department. And so I beg you to do everything that you can and use all the power that you have in the board that was created from 84% of the voters to do a thorough and transparent investigation of these texts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, now the board would have to make a decision on how to address this policy review request. We did submit a memo, as I mentioned, on page 22, if you allow me just to summarize it. The complainant provided a very thorough analysis and the reasoning why we should do this. As you recall, the members of the public and the board, you were very proactive once the revelation of this news came out, and you did create a subcommittee. A lot of what the complaint is suggesting in this presentation, in this policy complaint, is already being done by the policy subcommittee that's looking at the Bike Down Task Force. And we have been receiving different data points to include some of the ones that the presentation included that has been encompassed in the policy review. I know that the members of the community have expressed desire to know more about what the subcommittee has been doing, and just one of the things that the subcommittee, the stance it took early on was that because of the delicate nature, that there was also a parallel misconduct investigation being done by an external investigator. The policy subcommittee did not want to publicly forecast anything that might also be part of that investigation. Now that that is wrapped up, the policy review committee, from my understanding, working with the chair and of that subcommittee and also board chair, it is getting ready to present some of these findings. That report also, though, will need to also receive the city attorney's review before it can be made publicly. However, I do note that we have utilized very rigorous methodology and looked at both quantitative evidence and qualitative. Some data points took a lot longer for the subcommittee to get, but we have also been able to collect other information that other individuals, stakeholders, and even other investigators have not been able to look at. So I think the subcommittee's work is going to be uniquely positioned to tell a very broad story and comprehensive story. And it is our recommendation that this particular policy complaint, it's be rejected for the sole purpose that it's duplicative in nature to the work that's already being done by the policy subcommittee. But again, the board members are entitled to do whatever you choose.
Do you guys have a, would you like to discuss this? Can I open this up? Vice Chair, your thoughts?
Is there any way that we can utilize, the information that we've been provided in this complaint in conjunction with what the subcommittee is doing?
So, yes, the subcommittee has, utilized data from various different, we found data that's been useful from, very different sources. However, we want to make sure that our data is, cannot be questioned.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so that's the other piece of us. And let me just say, as I open this up and we're talking about the work of the subcommittee, I am on the subcommittee, the chair of the subcommittee is, board member Calavita, who is unfortunately not here today, but I can say that we have, we're at the last stages of preparing this report that is focused on public policy within the, our purview of the bike force. It will be going to the city attorney's office for review within weeks. And then it is our hope that once we present to the board, that the board with a vote will, feel comfortable making the report public. We will present to city council, we'll make sure that everybody, all the stakeholders, and including the community, have access to the information that we have found, and we're gonna give it to the community 100% transparent. From a public policy standpoint, we have no disciplinary action or recourse within this. That's fair.
That's fair.
That's fair. All right. Any other questions or comments, anything within this policy complaint?
And just echo the vice chair's comments, which is to the extent we can to incorporate the input and just, appreciate the participation by members of the public and respect the time and effort they put into it and just make sure it's given consideration in the process, which I know it is, but just to acknowledge that and make sure for completeness that it's part of that process.
Thank you.
I just had one question. It's unusual for our, for subcommittee reports or conclusions to go to the city attorney's office, and I'm just wondering, is that because this is particularly sensitive, or why is it that the city attorney needs to review?
It's our county attorney, we can go directly to him, how would. City Attorney Chang, are you available? Got a great question over here.
Yeah, so the charter requires that public reports that are issued by the board be reviewed by the city attorney's office for in compliance with confidentiality laws. So it's just a legal review for those reasons. We're not otherwise going to be making any substantive input. That is of course entirely for the board.
Okay, thank you.
Is the public comment already over? Is it too late?
We will.
Oh, okay. All right, I didn't want to miss off.
No problem. Were you gonna ask for a vote?
Well, if you're ready, but I just wanted to see clarification from a member of the public. Was your public comment in relation to this presentation or in general? Okay, because it's up to you, Mr. Chair, how you want to proceed.
You know what, I'm gonna go ahead and use the power of the chair and allow the community member to speak.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe I should come over here. I think you have a camera going.
It tracks you, yeah, so.
It tracked me.
Wherever you
Oh, it's
go.
following me? Your brother is here in the room. Your brother's in the room.
It's following you.
That's so good. Okay, technology. Excuse me, my name is Moni Law, and congratulations on your new position. I think I heard it on the Zoom. I'm a member and was named by the mayor to the Fair and Impartial Policing Work Group. I also been active in public safety and Suburban Community Safety Coalition. And we are engaged in the practice of leadership by Black, Brown, and Indigenous people with white allies to make the community safe. That includes policing, constitutional policing, but also mental health services, housing, economic support, etc. What I'm very concerned about this, and I thank you for the time, very briefly, is to vote on rejecting a community member's materials that are submitted and found data supported. The empirical data includes not just the data set, but also the people's statements, the personal experiences, the feeling as a Berkeleyite, which I'm one of only 10% of city employees. I'm here in my personal capacity as a resident of Berkeley. Only 10% city employees live in Berkeley. When I lived here as a student at UC Berkeley in the 70s and early 80s, we were 40% of South Berkeley. I don't see Black people anymore, hardly ever, anywhere. On campus today, I went to Black Wednesday, which they have every Wednesday for 30 years now. They're Black students and they feel alone. They don't feel seen and they don't feel supported. So when you have officers who are acting in this capacity with a badge to serve, treating Black people by saying, what do they all have in common? We have COVID, no idea, all the same heritage. Calling things the Obama card, assuming that Black people are all on welfare, which of course is not true and is a racist thought, diminishes the value of your Black citizens in Berkeley and people who care about diversity, which Berkeley Pride Special has been known, at least historically, of being a community, right? Are we not? Supposedly of value to people of every background, economically, racially, religiously, etc. We're the founder of the historic freedom, free speech movement. I was part of the anti-apartheid movement, the anti-nuke movement, the environmental justice movement. Why are we not ahead of the game here in public safety and making every moment count, including this presentation today? I also want to end with saying, you know, when I was practicing law for 25 years, now I speak publicly, and when I speak about this particular personal issue to me, and someone has told me it's called PTSD. So when I see the officer who bashed me in the back during the Black Lives Matter event a few years ago, we filed a federal lawsuit. As a result of that lawsuit, we now have use of force policies. Don't think we didn't have them before. They didn't know how much flashbangs they threw at us. They didn't know how much quantity of tear gas was thrown, so many canisters. They didn't know how many people were bashed in the back. A minister was bashed in the neck. Cal student bashed in the ribs. Myself bashed in the back. When I saw this white officer putting a Black suspect into a car, I started crying and couldn't stop. And this was 2 years after it happened. I go to the YMCA and compose myself. And I kept crying for the rest of the day. It is extremely painful and traumatizing to see the numbers, and they're not just numbers as just stated. Those were people, 260 people. I have students who told me they've been stopped, and we call it walking while Black, driving while Black, talking while Black, shopping while Black, and for no other reason but that you're Black, you got stopped. Happened to my son in Seattle at the age of 13. It's an exhausting existence to be Black in the United States, and in Berkeley, it shouldn't be so hard. We got to do better. I pray, dear God, I pray, power of prayer, but also just into your civic duty, that you look deeply into this, because mind you this, God forbid. I did 1983 lawsuits in federal court as a lawyer. When people were hurt by an officer who should not have that right to carry a badge, my mom was an associate warden of the criminal justice system, and she was in prisons and now I have people in law enforcement. It should not be abused. And you're allowing people to get that abuse just brushed under the carpet when you don't look deeper and you push harder. I've done public record action requests, I've not received a response. Berkeley side, their publisher told me they can't get a response from the chief and still haven't been able to get a meeting. Where's the transparency and the open accountability? You're it. And we thank you for being here because we could do better and we must do better. Thank you for being here. Get to the bottom of it. Oh, and the last thing I was gonna say, what happened in Antioch? Anybody see the similarity of those officers who are now under arrest with the FBI? And the thing that I fear, and I don't want this to ever happen, you allow it to go unpunished or unaccountable and no resolve done, and it happens again to someone gets hurt or killed. God forbid that happen, but it can, because those officers in Antioch, and this Officer Marble, who has no right to carry a badge or have the name of Berkeley on his shoulder, and threatening a black man and telling them that N-word don't belong in my community, because that's where he lives, but he works in Berkeley, and I think it was a Berkeley issued gun, wasn't it? I think it's his duty pistol, that he took the man's head and said, I'm gonna blow your head off, you don't belong here, black people don't belong here, he says to the black man who's his neighbor's friend. Why is he on the force, and what's happening there as well? So we've got a lot of cleanup to do, and we can't just dismiss this complaint because it's duplicative. No, it is actually substantive, and it is actually something you can amend your report to, and you can add it. It's additive, it's not duplicative. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, sure.
Yeah, I'd like to make some comments on this too. Thank you all for taking the time and for listening to me. So my comment's actually quite different, and not to take anything away from Molly Law, but I don't want to focus on the racism and kind of the inappropriateness of these text messages, but actually something slightly different that came up to me when thinking about kind of this body's role in oversight and what's going on in these text messages, which I hadn't seen before I came. So when you look at these texts, you see that kind of a whole bunch of interpersonal banter is interspersed with actual work. You know, people saying, how many 1015s, I don't know what those are, and, you know, actual stuff that seems to be police work. And so, you know, my thing to myself is, you know, every job that I've had for the last 20 years, there was a corporate messaging system that we all used, and that was controlled by the corporation, who then had the ability to review what kind of conversations were happening, and would be able to discipline people who were inappropriate like this. So I think to myself, this is work chat. These officers are using text messages as work chat. So first thing I think to myself is, what's the policy on using private chat at work? Because what happens if other officers need to know how many 1015s there were, or what's happening? I mean, this seems to me like a lot of this should be going through channels. So if it's work chat, why is it not going through a work chat system? That where somebody would be able to review it, and before it just sort of spilled out to the light and people said, wow, look at all this racist messaging that is happening with cops, that it could have been reviewed for sort of unprofessionalism and other things that would have been caught, I think, a lot earlier. So when I look at this, I say the police need a chat system that is supplied to them so that it can be monitored like any other business would. Every other business in the world uses a chat system that the business that supplies it says, you know, we're gonna be able to look at your chats, these are not your private chats, so you should know that we expect a certain amount of professionalism, quorum. But that's what strikes me when I look at this, I'm like, what is going on here? Why is this happening outside the purview of the employer?
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I do see at least two hands raised in virtual.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
I open the floodgates. Let's get wet.
Former council member Cheryl Davila, you're on with the board. Former council member Cheryl Davila, you're still interested in addressing the board at this time?
Yeah, sorry, I'm double tasking here, didn't notice. Yeah, so, thank you for, calling on me, and thank you to the people that have already spoken. I've lived in Berkeley 42 years, and, you know, I remember back in the 90s or early 2000s, I can't recall which, but it's been a very long time. Actually, since my son was 16, I can remember he got pulled over on his bicycle with his other friends for pretty much, you know, they weren't doing anything, but they got pulled over and had to go to court for not having helmets, but they weren't even, I don't know. It was just interesting that they got pulled over when they weren't doing anything and the cops had just finished giving someone a ticket and then they got pulled over. But also, you know, I remember in my neighborhood, my neighbor would tell his friends, you can't stand in front of my house, we can't talk, because if like if there were more than 3 people, he would say, the cops will come, because you can't stand around Berkeley being Black talking to other Black people without being harassed by the police. And now we have these, we had the CPE report, which was, you know, that got released when I was on council. I requested the draft and then the final report that said there was racial profiling. And then there was analysis done during COVID that showed that there was racial profiling, had, you know, increased during COVID. And then there's these text messages that got released. So there's a history, a long history of racism and discrimination within the Berkeley PD. So this needs to get, these text messages need to get investigated. And I also have a lot of Black male friends that tell me every time they come to Berkeley, they get pulled over. And so something needs to be done. There needs to be an investigation. There needs to be a change. We're in 2023. We know that a lot of the policing started from slave patrols. And sadly, it just seems like all that history is prominent today in 2023. So please do what you can do to investigate these allegations and these text messages. It's not okay. People driving while Black, walking while Black, or Latinx, or POCs, BIPOC folks in Berkeley are at risk. So please do what you can do. Listen to the community, listen to the speakers that have already spoken, review all those text messages, and do the right thing, because something's got to give. We can't continue the same practices and disparities and racism in this city. Something's got to change. The time is now. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see one additional hand raised. Kid Saginaw, you're on with the board. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you so much. I understand that the policy work, the policy complaint work is that you have undertaken is nearing a completion point. And my understanding is that the Police Accountability Board has been stymied from really acting in the way the voters wanted it to act when we put in that charter amendment. If there has been anything presented in this policy complaint, any of the evidence that was collected, or anything else that has been presented to you by Moni Law and by Everest, please delay finishing that process to incorporate anything else that could be added to it. I can hardly speak with the sort of the level of frustration of what it is we wanted the Police Accountability Board to be doing and what you have actually been able to do. And I know that a lot of strictures have been put up to stop you from doing things that the wording of the charter amendment actually says you should be able to do. So I hope you're not going to stay so close to, oh, well, this is our process. This is what we said we would do. This is how we'll do it, and overlook anything that has been presented tonight that would make your case stronger, that would be helpful to the work that the subcommittee has already done. Thank you so much, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see no additional hand raises.
All right, seeing no additional hands, I'm going to close this public comment at this time. And
That's good. Clarify question.
please.
If there's any substantive difference in terms of staff, I see the recommendations. I mean, could we, again, I'm just understanding the options. Could we accept a complaint and just refer it to the existing subcommittee that's already doing the investigation? Just, I mean, as a member, as a matter of principle, accept the substance of, I mean, again, I don't want to add duplicative work, but can we just say we accept it and assign it to the existing committee? So
I have the same thought, actually.
You can, and I just also want to just, for situational awareness, we did receive the groups, the data that they were, the raw data set in May 11th of this year, so this has been incorporated in that ongoing review. It wasn't. It wasn't a judgment, and I'll clarify our characterizations, calling it duplicative. It wasn't being dismissive of the work. In fact, it was acknowledging that it's already been incorporated. So I did consider the scarce resources. And we also didn't want to create a new subcommittee for work that's already been done. But
my proposal then would be refer to the existing subcommittee, keep it open, and then let the subcommittee report, and we can close it at the time that the subcommittee makes its report. Would be a suggestion if that is acceptable from a process.
Was that a motion? You could buy it. Sorry, good.
Okay, so my motion is to accept the complaint, refer to the existing committee, keep the complaint open until the subcommittee reports, and then we'll revisit the closing complaint after the subcommittee.
We will have time.
We will have time.
Second that.
All right, so now I'm gonna ask for a vote.
okay, we roll call.
Yes, please.
Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Harris,
Yes.
Board Member Lethbridge,
Yes.
Board Member Blackley,
Yes.
approved unanimous.
Excellent. You know when you're ready. Good.
We're good. We're on item number 10, which is the regular public comment.
Correct. So, once again, I'm opening public comment. And this can be about anything that you'd like to present to the board. Anybody would like to speak?
You see a member of.
Okay.
It's Saginaw, you're on with the board.
Thank you. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Not seeing anyone present or any hands virtually, I am going to close public comment. Which takes us to agenda item 11, which is closed session.
And for members of the public, we normally have flexibility because it's just one staff member. If we can ask, members of the public to wait in the lobby area. You don't have to go home. You don't have to go home. And if you stay by, we'll come back and after we open up the session. Thank you for your attendance. And for members of the public attending virtually, please know we're going into our closed session segment. The webinar will stay on, but we will return back after the closed session has returned. Austin,
He's out in the hall.
And